Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 14, season 3, episode 14 of the EUphoria podcast. We're available on SoundCloud, YouTube, iTunes, and Spotify as well. And if you are on YouTube and you want some sick timestamps, they are in the description. You can jump to wherever you want. We're going to be talking about a lot of different things today. All of the teams, all of the top teams heading to MSI will be graciously skipping over play-ins outside of the moments where it matters most. But some bet updates before we get into anything. Quickshot has to get a frog tattoo. He wants basically a Naruto frog. We'll keep you posted on how that goes and what that looks like. But if you aren't a weeb for whatever reason, it's a ninja frog. He's getting a ninja frog. He lost the bet. And if you've been living under a rock, G2, unsurprisingly, won the LEC Finals. Now, cosplay bet, we failed. We will get our KDA cosplay, and we will, to make it up to you in the community, as well as to Jankos and Mikyx, who we did disappoint in the end, we will talk to them about a suitable punishment, a little additional add-on to the bet to make sure that me and Frosk are sufficiently embarrassed with our KDA cosplay. I will be Evelyn. She will be Akali.
Yeah, I think so.
All right. I will get a boa. I don't know, man. We're going to figure it out. I promise we failed. I'm sorry. I love you all. Thank you for putting up with us. But today, our very special guest to discuss with us European League of Legends from the League of Legends European Championship Series. I said that right? Okay.
No.
This is Raz Vedius Day. Hello, sir. Why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself? I don't know if they know who you are. You've never been allowed on this podcast before.
I cast and analyze the European League. I also do funny skits occasionally to help explain complex ideas.
Are you a connoisseur or an expert of European League of Legends?
Let's say a combination of the two.
Ah.
An exorceur.
Exorceur?
Yeah.
It sounds like The Exorcist, but like...
Is that the next?
I
food
extract
exorcist.
knowledge from the pros and then I reveal it to the world.
So if you're wondering why we're all a little bit sleepy, it's because we woke up at the crack of dawn to do the Plans Draw show, which many of you may have missed, understandably, because Europe is not involved. Good job, Europe. We do not have to play plans. We are fantastic. And once again, for those of you living under a rock, G2 has made it. But before we talk about G2 at MSI, they 3-0'd in the finals. I'm going to ask every other region if they felt like they sent the strongest representative. I feel like I already know the answer from my two EU experts, but I'll say it anyway. Is G2 the strongest team that we sent to MSI? There you go. Thank you.
Yeah, that also. So I've been making the statement. I think G2 has the potential to be the strongest European team ever.
I agree with this.
A lot of people are getting angry at me because they're like, Fnatic. And I was like, I mean, you've got a good point. They're not that yet.
But also, people like to say that, but then it's like, guys, people have gotten better at League of Legends.
I mean,
like
true.
Season 3 SKT would get their shit.
But so the thing that matters to me is that, so I understand, because one of the arguments that I used is, I think it's been very rare where a team has been comprised of the first or second best player within a region in Europe.
But Vedius,
on a single team.
What about Perkz?
Well, no, but what people would say is they would go, well, Perkz is one of them, but they would also go like Fnatic last year had the best player in every position. And I mean, that's the debate, right? Like I don't know if that's entirely true. But my point is, I think that when you look at the unique thing about G2 is how diverse and flexible they actually are. Their ability to play multiple champions in multiple different roles, the fact that every single one of them share a champion pool, the fact that every single player is willing to play different positions at any time, like this kind of versatility, this level of aggression, this level of understanding of the game is something that I feel we've never seen from any other team. And like if we just compare them to last year's Fnatic, they were very good. They had a very good early game, and they were good at team fighting. That was like their core strength. Whereas G2 seem to be good at everything. Like they seem to be good at team fighting. They seem to have a good early game. They can play a wide variety of styles, whether it be 1-3-1, 1-4. They can play well around Baron. Like they feel like the whole complete package, which is why I so adamantly believe in this statement, and which is why I think this year will be one of the best years in Europe's history.
I also think it's like the best way to play League of Legends because it kind of seems, in its most basic sense, like two different styles. There's the style where you play to force others' mistakes, and then you capitalize on those mistakes. Cool. Or you play to not make mistakes, and then you punish mistakes that the enemy team does. It's kind of the old school like defensive Korean style versus like offensive Chinese style, and one has a much higher risk reward. And it felt like most of the Western teams for the longest time were trying to mimic the defensive style, where you just slowly build up, and it doesn't necessarily translate to just slow gameplay, but just this idea that unless you're 80% sure that something's going to work, you're not going to capitalize on it, and that can tend to slow games down. Whereas G2 and a lot of the professional players kept using this word limit League of Legends. They play to the absolute limit that their champions are able to do, and so it feels like every single time you watch the team, you learn something new about how an interaction works. So I agree with Vedius in terms of like the sheer ability, the versatility, but also just I think that this is the best style of League of Legends. Like, do crazy until it's not crazy anymore. It's actually just normal, and then you are on a completely different level than any other team.
And also, to be fair, like Riot Games has very much buffed the style, right? Like tower plating is very
Invictus Gaming
a
says
buff.
yes.
Yeah, it's like very much a buff to aggressive, very proactive early games. And the fact that it just falls off at 14 minutes is like, oh, well, there's, whatever, 1,500 gold or whatever per tower that you're not actually going to get if you don't take and if you don't fight and you don't risk these things. And I just generally like it because it's good after 2018 Worlds to see people have a lot more faith in Europe. Because even when people like put faith in Fnatic, it's always like, ooh, Fnatic are going to make it out of groups and like maybe make it to a semi. Like I don't think anyone was like hardcore like Fnatic are going to finals last year. And now this is the first time I think that people are putting G2 not just as like a surprise contender, but like a solid contender in the top 3.
Yeah, I think it kind of also goes back to that playstyle. And RNG and Invictus Gaming are actually like really good foils for Fnatic and G2, in the sense that like RNG have been so consistent in making it to so many world championships in the same way that Fnatic have, because the core of their playstyle has always been that really like defensive, you only care about what you're doing, how you're going to roll up, you wait for the other team to make mistakes, and as soon as they give you an inch, they take everything. Whereas Invictus Gaming and G2 are much more like force mistakes, capitalize on them, have so much creativity, constantly be moving around, constantly changing things up.
But also like they're a team of playmakers.
Oh yeah.
That's what they are. Like they will take gambles. They will, like something we've said all split long, which is like the 51%, right? Which is that if a play on paper looks like it should be 50-50, right? G2 players and Invictus Gaming players and like players like these will do it because they believe that they are the 51%, and 9 times out of 10 they make it work because they're just that good at League of Legends. And like Shy is one of the perfect examples of these kind of players, where you watch his final, a team when they're losing, Shy's just like, well, you know what, I think I can 1v4 because that's the capabilities of my champion, and I can do this and I'll outplay, and he does, right? And Wonder is another player that does these kind of things.
And 50-50 is not a 50-50 if you're the better player,
right? And this is the thing, and G2 is stacked full of playmaking players that are not idiots. They're actually very smart about the game. I think they demonstrated that in their final against OG. And yeah, I'm very excited about this roster. I cannot wait to see what they can do on an international stage. I am most excited to see them play against Invictus Gaming because I genuinely believe they are mirrors of each other stylistically. And the last time Caps went up against Rookie, he did lose. Like, no one's debating that. And I think, like, Wonder, the last time he played against the Shy, he also did not have a fun time. And I remember him being very vocal about, like, I'm never giving Shy Jace again. Right, like, but like, there's a lot to prove for G2, and it's definitely going to be a very interesting challenge to see how they've developed and grown with this new roster.
Yeah, and just to see if our faith is well placed, right? Because it is always hard to know exactly how strong a team is going
100%.
to be. In a regional comparison is always very difficult. When you look at this team overall as an EU contender, like we talk about all the things that they do really well. Are there weaknesses that we're scared of? As EU representatives, like if anything is going to fall apart, if anything is going to crash and burn for G2, like are there any red flags we can see already that could pop up on the international stage?
At the highest level, because you're going to the Champions Tournament and you're going to be competing with the best in the world in their respective positions, I'm concerned about Perkz and Mikyx, not because I don't think that they have or lack the individual talent to compete. I absolutely think that Perkz and Mikyx are or will be one of the best bot lanes that the world has ever seen, just because of their sheer mechanical strength, how they think about the game, and like their confidence. But that takes time and learning some of these matchups. I remember, and I won't reveal the team's names, but a European team was once scrimming a Chinese team in Worlds, and they played both sides of the matchup. And the European team thought they knew exactly how the matchup worked. And then when they got beat by both sides of it by the LPL, it like destroyed their confidence. They're like, I know nothing about this game. I don't know how this is supposed to work. And it destroyed them in scrims and they stopped scrimming that team. And that doesn't just happen to European teams, it happens all the time. But for like Perkz and Mikyx, like you have to fundamentally change how you think. You have to be willing to continue learning. And I think those players do have that capability, that they won't just be like the logical players of it works like this, and if it doesn't work like this, like when it's played to a perfect, because they play Limit League of Legends. But I just don't think that it's going to be at this tournament. I think that's where you can really exploit G2. I don't know if Teddy, Mata, JackeyLove, Botlane, or Doublelift and Core JJ will be necessarily the bot lanes to do that. But like, if I were going to try to attack G2 anywhere, I would try to disrupt them with certain matchups that they might not be as comfortable in and see if you can rock them there, because Perkz just hasn't played enough positions in ADC. Like, there's thousands of games for Doublelift alone. For Teddy's, hundreds.
Vedius, do you agree that the bot lane is like where you would look if you had to point any weakness? And before anyone freaks out, not like in the international scope, not like these guys are bad. Once again, Frostgren said it.
They're so good.
I've been burnt before by making jokes about Perkz being a liability. Gotta clarify.
So, like,
and like, if Mickey's not scrimming as much,
it's one of those things where I think it's really difficult because we've never really seen this team challenge domestically to ideally point out weaknesses. And individual skill is something that I've always thought was really fascinating, because for the longest time in League of Legends, pros never really beat other pros. Like, it was almost like if you were good enough, then it was fine. You know,
like what made Faker so good is that he would just play things that people didn't think was even possible, and so other pros were like, "Oh my god, it's like he plays in slow motion."
Yes, and it's one of those things. But for the longest time, like, pros very rarely got solo kills. Like, you'd very rarely outplay your opponent. Like, you'd build up small CS advantages, but like, it was very matchup dependent, and very rarely would you actually outplay your opponent. But then with like over the last 2 years specifically, the meta's evolved in a way that allows playmakers to be more lane dominant. And something that I didn't believe until I saw it was like the difference in skill between players like Rookie and the Shy versus everyone else. And it's one of those things where coming into this tournament, I struggle to believe that Perkz and Mikyx are just going to lose. But given that I've seen it happen before, and like as a European, I've firsthand experience like watching Caps just get obliterated by Rookie. Like, people always sit there and say like, oh, but he was in loads of bad matchups and he wasn't set up for success. I'm like, yeah, I understand that.
But
that just hasn't happened.
But like, I remember watching Caps play against Rookie, and he just got beaten, right? Like, he was beaten. Like, and Caps has said it himself, right? He respected a lot how good Rookie was, and it's one of those things where like I struggle to believe it, but I can see it happening. I could see it happen to the bot lane of G2, but until I see it, I can't, as a European fan, believe it. You know, like, and that's just my bias kicking in, where I'm like, I struggle to sit there and go, no, they're gonna lose. But like, I agree with Frost that it is a potential weakness, and as an analyst, you kind of have to be realistic, and the experience difference is there. There's very talented bot lanes going to this tournament, and you have to respect that. So, yeah, I can see it as a potential, but I can't believe it until I see it.
It's kind of like that mentality of like, if you're trying to climb ELO, just pick comfort, even if you know it's a bad matchup, because you'll just be the better player in it. And I remember
my strategy. I believe it wholeheartedly.
As a coach, I ran into so many players who would just have the mentality of it didn't matter who they were facing, just on the matchup, because like you're saying, like, it used to be that, oh, it's a losing matchup, that guy will just go down to CS. Like, no solo kill will happen. Nothing will snowball of it, because we're just in this vacuum, in this controlled environment, and they weren't taking into account of who was piloting the champion and how you could fundamentally break the game. And now it is completely different. And I think that's, again, what is so exciting about G2, but then what's just so scary about G2, because they are facing teams like SKT, TL, and Invictus Gaming, because I think all those players are capable of the exact same thing.
I think it's like, it actually makes me really excited. I'm really, because for such a long period of time, we were playing, we'll call it the Korean style, you know, the very macro heavy, very slow, very focused. And it was artistic, right? But it was never explosive, right? And like, you could see like the beauty and like a really well executed strategy, but also you didn't see that like there was not a lot of room for individual expression of skill, right? Like, that's how it felt for the longest time. That period of time was difficult to watch, because you're like, oh, this guy's better, because he goes up and, you know, when he wins matchups, he wins them a little harder. We lose matchups, he doesn't lose them as quite as hard as anyone else, and he's really good in team fights, right? But now it feels like games can literally just be decided by a single lane having an individual skill difference.
So the one thing I will also say about G2 is one of the difficulties teams like Origin had against them was they're very difficult to prepare and predict for. The fact that like they even said they did know the funnel was coming, like the execution was poor, but like I think predicting and playing around G2 is challenging. But now teams have actually seen a lot of what G2 does, and I don't know if it helps or hurts them. Like I don't know what it's like to prep for a team that is G2, but now that they know they're willing to do crazy stuff, I don't know if that better enables teams, which means that they can come in better prepared, or if it's something that's very difficult to prepare for because you don't actually know what they're going to bring to the table. But if I were to say on paper, the one advantage I give over G2 compared to someone like Invictus Gaming is that they can flex their champions across 3 roles, whereas IG is more likely to flex it across 2. And the ability to have that extra flexibility means that you're more likely to guarantee winning matchups. And in that case, you can leverage that to get an advantage over a team like Invictus Gaming. But it's difficult because I would say that Invictus Gaming is a little more standard than someone like G2, but I don't know if it's an advantage or a disadvantage or not.
I actually think, because I agree with the sentiment that G2 stylistically should have an edge, especially if we're talking about in context of like Invictus Gaming, because they do have more versatility in their champion pools across more positions. I think that it literally comes down to this. It's a skill check. If
it's true.
The individual pieces of G2 don't get absolutely blasted, can skill check across from the individual pieces of IG, then you start to see if the style can give them an edge. And if not, then it's literally G2 holding on for dear life to stylistically outmatch. But a lot of people will be like, Fnatic proved that you can do that in group stage. But what was interesting is when you talk to Whippo, which he has very strong opinions about Invictus Gaming, it feels like it haunts him. He always talks about how, you didn't see Lissandra Aftershock until the very end. And it almost sounds like Whippo has the opinion that IG held the strategy until they were forced to reveal it in the finals and then just blew Fnatic out of the water. And I'm not trying to promote the idea of like sandbagging, but I hope that G2 can skill check IG and then it comes down to style.
That's a big question, right? You don't know.
And I lean towards G2 having more like stylistic options, but maybe IG again are just kind of sitting on a Lissandra Aftershock situation.
It's just so wild to think that at the top level a team can hold back strategies like that. And also just the idea that
we hear about it all the time. Like the misfortune support.
Yeah, counter to Zyra.
Yeah, but the counter to it that was being scrimmed was Lux at the time. But they were scrimmed on opposite sides of the bracket, and all the analysts were like, we're ready for it, and it never got to show. And then there was also a different Ahri build to counter Syndra.
Was it Hose and
it was the GLP
thing, right?
Ahri, so you could absorb the Syndra burst damage, but then have the utility to chase her down. And we saw that Faker was like scrimming it hard in solo queue because he was trying to prepare a pick for it when Syndra was like so broken, but it just never made it to the stage. And so like top level teams have so many strategies that they prepare that you never see the light of day of.
God bless G2 and their wildness. They show us at least 3 every time they hit the stage. Moving in, you talked about like kind of the style of G2, and I'm curious, group stage is always an interesting time. Like best of one, as we've seen, is a very explosive format.
This is a great best of one team, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Is like, is this best of ones benefit this team?
Yeah,
I mean, I've
100%.
seen the Fnatic series where they like, it comes down to a game of inches.
So I think that the thing about Fnatic is you knew what to expect from them last year, right? Like, I'm not going to say they had a good early game. Broxah and Caps, Hylissang. I say Broxah and Hylissang were a large part of what made their early game so strong. And you all right there, Frost?
I opened this and it's half empty already, and I'm like, I didn't drink this, and I'm just like making eyes at you. I'm like, who touched my water bottles?
You need to calm down. For the record, in podcast land, Frost has many separate water bottles set aside just for her to drink. She's now spilled water on the table because she's not an adult.
Excellent tangent, Frost.
You're great. Thank you for your contributions.
So this team is excellent in best of ones in the sense that like Fnatic was very predictable and you knew what they were going to do. Like Broxah and Hylissang would try to set up some kind of early level 1 play, and then Fnatic would use an early game advantage to kind of hold on to a lead, and then they would work towards team fighting, right? Like that was very standard. It was a very reliable strat. They were very good at it. We saw semblance of it this year as well.
We saw it at MSI and RNG. We're like, give them their strategy. We know we could do it better.
Yeah,
that's literally what happened. They just ran into a wall.
Right, exactly. And I'll never forget that series. Fnatic get early leads all 3 games and they lose every time, right? Anyway, G2 do not have that same issue because you don't actually know which strat G2 will go for. They can play around top, they can play around mid, they can play through bot. They can play for team fighting, they can play for split push. Typically, they do prefer the 1-3-1 style, because they have two very strong solo laners that they want to enable, but I don't think that they are burned by it as they demonstrated in the finals. So I think that naturally makes you a strong best of one team, because the unpredictability of what you can bring out in a draft makes it difficult to plan for. And when you only get one opportunity and you don't get to learn in a series, that's just a very challenging thing to deal with. So I think they're a very strong best of one team. And honestly, I think the likes of SKT and Team Liquid, who I also expect to make it there, will struggle against like the likes of G2 and Invictus Gaming in this best of one environment.
Okay, I like that. And I'm glad that you brought up SKT, because that's a team I want to hit on today. For the record, Papa Smithy was sadly unavailable. He sends his regards, but as he's not here, we'll be talking with each of our guests today a little bit about SKT and a little bit about the LCK in general. So, Vedius, I know you have some opinions on G2 versus SKT. Is there any bold statements that you'd like to throw out there?
So, I will preface this by saying I've only so far watched the final, right, of SKT. I've tracked them a decent amount throughout the split, but I'd still really like to watch the series versus Kingzone as a better indication of what SKT can bring, which I haven't done yet, because I felt like their series versus Griffin didn't show a lot for SKT. It showed more about like the faults in Griffin, I felt. So I still want to like give SKT more of the benefit of the doubt, because many Korean analysts and high expectations were put upon SKT coming to the final, right? They clearly have a lot of respect among the teams there, and I do think that they are a good team. Some of the things that I noticed about the team was that Khan seems to not be the same Khan that he was in the past. He seems to be more over-aggressive, especially in the laning phase, and he seems to be a lot more susceptible to being outplayed than he was in the past. Now, that's not to say he's a bad player. His Riven in Game 3 was both kind of terrible, but at the same time, absolutely amazing. So he's one of those players that seems a little bit more inconsistent compared to what we've seen in the past, where he was like considered one of, if not the best top laner when he went to Worlds. I think it was on Kingzone at the time. And the bot lane of Teddy and Mata, while exceptionally good, not hyper aggressive. They're not the laners that seem to try to dominate and snowball their lanes. But again, because it's only based on the final, I only saw them play against a Pantheon and Talia. So this is why I want to watch them a little bit more. This is why I want to watch them a little bit more before I completely evaluate this team. But the one thing that does seem very consistent across all their games is that they remind me a lot of Origin in how they play. They're not limited in their style. They don't seem to be like very team fight focused, or like they can play through, they can get early game leads, but they're very controlled. They're very systematic. They take their time in the plays that they make, and they're very good at being reactive. Any play you try to make, they're very aware that you could do it, and they're very quick to respond and have a game plan in the event that something happens. So that's why they remind me a lot of Origin, and stylistically, they're very different from the likes of G2 and Invictus Gaming in that they don't try to force a lot of plays. They're very patient, they're very calculated, they're very calm, and the term I used is they're very good at losing gracefully. When they're in losing matchups, they don't fall behind dramatically. They're very calm, they're very patient, and they know that they'll get to a point where they can turn things around. So I think they're very systematic, very patient, and for EU fans that may not have followed them, stylistically, they are very similar to Origin in how they approach the game.
I think what's interesting is that they also have experience with multiple different styles because of just the overall strength of LCK this split, and kind of like how many different takes teams had. It got a lot faster with, like the young blood teams, Griffin in particular kind of leading that charge. Whereas I don't think the same can be said for all of the regions.
That's true.
I haven't watched North America like super in depth. I need to prep for them more, but every game that I did catch from them, not that they all have the same style, but it wasn't as vast in terms of like the collection of styles as you would see in LCK or even in LEC with teams like G2 and Origin, who are like on completely different sides of the spectrum. And then the LPL, kind of the same thing. Like they don't have a lot of variation of styles in the region. You have Invictus Gaming, who are just like dominating everything, and you have like 5v5 teams, but that's kind of it. So I feel like NA and LPL won't have the same experience as like G2 and SKT in terms of just the sheer different takes that teams will throw at them.
Yeah. And this is kind of the interesting thing, right? Because when people hear me say the statement, stylistically, Origin and SKT are similar, and then people go, well, wait, G2 3-0 at Origin, people may then jump to the conclusion, so surely that means that G2 are heavy favorites against SKT. And this is kind of where the debate comes in. Do you think stylistically one is just objectively better than another one, which gives a team an advantage? Or do you think that the individual talent on the team or the teamwork of a team is enough to compensate for the stylistic difference to create some kind of...
I also think that Origin really suffered from execution on their style.
For sure.
And I don't think SKT will. So I actually think we'll get like what Origin should have been.
I want to reinforce I'm not going to make the comparison that Origin and SKT are on the same tier, right? I'm not trying to
Same
say
style.
that.
Same style.
Stylistically, they remind me of each other.
They're playing the same character in a fighting game, but one guy knows all the combos, and the other guy's like, I can do the Hadouken, like it's technically the same.
No, the other guy knows what combo he wants to do, but his fat fingers just keep...
They're trying to do it's the super, I keep ending up with the ultra,
Exactly.
I keep dying in river, I don't know what's happening.
It's interesting. But Vedius, you talk a lot about like the theoreticals, the hypotheticals. How do you think G2 will do against SKT? Preliminary. Once again.
Preliminary, I would argue that G2 are the favorites in that best of one. Right now, if I had to vote, I would vote G2 to win the best of one at the very least. We already talked a little bit about how G2, I think, are very just stylistically very good in a best of one environment, which I think gives them an advantage. But I also just think the biggest thing for me is that while SKT are a good team, they do what Origin did in that they don't push their lead recklessly. They like to wait for the opportune moment. They like to make sure that the correct play is being made. And I think for a team like G2 and Invictus Gaming, and even if you watch the series versus Griffin took a lot of opportunities that you wouldn't expect. They made a lot of plays that just kind of came out of nowhere, and people might think, what are they doing? But in the moment, you're like, actually, this caught SKT completely off guard, and if the goal difference wasn't as big as it was, this could have actually been the comeback moment for Griffin, if the execution was a little bit better. And teams like G2 and Invictus Gaming, I expect to do the same thing. And that's why I think that I would give G2 the edge right now. But again, I still need to watch a little bit more of SKT.
For sure.
Because I don't think I've been got
But I do like to compare and contrast always when we come into these tournaments, because there's always like initial opinions about a team, and then there's always we've seen them play on the international stage. There's now I've watched all of their VODs, and like I think maybe this is a strategy they could use. And so like that development of opinion, I think is actually always really interesting to track.
I think G2's decision making is... I have confidence in terms of sending them to the international, like this caliber of competition. I think their solo lanes I have confidence in,
sure.
even though like Caps, I don't think Caps is going to get clapped as bad. He'll lose, but if he does, he'll lose gracefully. I have a lot of questions about Mikyx and Perkz for a combination of reasons.
100%.
Experience and scrim time.
And I have potential issues, as in like risk issues.
Yeah. I think we're for anyone wondering why we aren't talking more about the Mikyx issue, it's like,
we don't know.
G2 released a statement. We talked about this on the group draw show, but G2 have also clarified that like Mikyx will play, but in the event that everything gets too bad, that like Promise Q is there to step in. And until that happens, we won't like speculate about the worst. We'll talk about full strength G2, assuming that they are full strength G2.
But my only other concern is Jankos. And again, Jankos is a great player, but it's a very different jungle. And I talked to you a little bit about this, like a very different jungle style. And there's not a lot of competition for Jankos in the LEC. And frankly, in the Origin versus G2 best of 5, the first one, Cold just outpathed Jankos. And so if you think about SKT as like mini, not saying like Clid is anything like Cold, but this idea of like kind of the cerebral control team, Clid has much more to work with than Origin does. And so if he's able to ever like exploit, although it would be in a different way, like that's the thing. I think if Jankos has a good tournament, then day one, if I see Jankos pop off, I'm like, all aboard, boys, we're great. If Jankos starts like faltering, I'm like, you can have good team decision making, strong enough laners that you can skill check these teams, and the bot lane finds good matchups. But if you just get blasted in the jungle and you just lose so much control of the map at this high level, I'm like, and Jankos doesn't have the greatest reputation in high pressure games.
Olaf versus Vel'Koz.
Oh, just running it in. Just right into that laser.
So for me, I'm like, I'll be all eyes on Jankos to see how he stacks up to Clid, Ning, and Xmith.
Yeah.
I feel like you always have to say NA just to be like respectful.
I mean, to be fair, like,
and I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but like
he's good.
Clid and Ning.
Xmithy, I mean, I won't go too long
Smithy's
on this
good.
because I can go on a tangent, but I do think that he is. You have to consider him a world-class jungler, considering the number of titles that he's had on multiple different teams.
It was like the third time that I had to tag on North America. I'm like, people are gonna be like, oh, why are they even? And Smithy was probably the most justified win to tag on to that conversation.
There you go. As we wrap up here, Vedius, I want to. Can you give us your preliminary top three, dear audience, before there's a Reddit thread flaming you? Although we will probably make a Twitter graphic and people will flame you.
People are going to flame me anyway.
Okay, what's your top three for
I think
MSI?
your reasoning is solid. Like, even if I disagree with it slightly, before anyone flames you, like, I totally see your logic, and I think it's pretty solid.
So I mean, it's end of the tournament top.
It's one of those things, right, where I think it's really important to remember that these are opinions.
You mean facts?
And until anything actually happens and we see gameplay, I have nothing else to base it on because, we've got multiple weeks of practice and play.
Yep.
But my current expectations are that IG are my favorites to win the tournament, G2 are in second, and then SKT is third. I think it is a close race. I think all teams have the potential to obviously beat each other, but I think that, no disrespect to Team Liquid, but I do think that they are not quite at the same caliber as the other three teams, and that can be a discussion for another time.
Now clip this, and when TL wins, this is the repeat.
Retweet, you throw this back in his face, you're going to retweet the graphic that said initial predictions when G2 are fourth, this is, come on, audience, like, let's burn him down.
I think the most important thing, and just kind of the other caveat here, is that if this comes, like, depending on what the tournament meta is, because for me, IG were like hyper buffed because the tournament meta was perfect for them. Because there's a reason why IG were struggling for so long in their domestic region, and then everything like shifted, and like we are the best team in the world at this style. So I'm like really curious, like if the meta hyper shifts away from this, if IG will fall back down again, and you'll have teams like SKT return because they play that different style. And that's what I think is really cool about this tournament is that we don't really know what the tournament meta is going to be. It could just favor SKT
Joshua
and TL.
Jatleesman's MSI. Who will come out on top?
I'm telling you,
team?
it's a conspiracy theory. He's like, I can get it done, guys. Give me 3 months.
I guess the final messaging I really want to get across is that a lot of people comment to me saying that IG and SKT are on this pedestal above, and people are getting behind this, like they're overhyping G2. And like as an EU analyst, people like it's difficult to take my opinion like as credible because there's an element of bias, or at least that's the perception of people. But I guess I really want to reinforce that G2 is definitely as good as we talk about them. Like they are a very talented team, and I do think that SKT is not quite the same team that they were in the past, and they shouldn't be put on the highest pedestal yet until they have proven international success.
But IG earned that pedestal, folks.
Oh yeah, IG, you can put IG up there.
You can put IG up there. All right, Vedius, that's going to do it for our time with you. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us about G2. We'll move on to our next guest shortly. Our next guest is here with us live from somewhere in China. Hello. It is none other than Barento Raz Mohammed.
Ni howdy.
Ni howdy?
That's what we used to say in the office. He knows.
Everyone used to say it. And then immediately be embarrassed when someone, like, literally anyone else that's not in on the joke comes by and it's like, what are these idiots doing?
It's because we had a Texan in our team, and he would just say howdy, and then we were learning Chinese together. So instead of saying ni
howdy. I got it. All right.
Next time you see Raz, ni howdy.
There you go. I thought Asian fusion stopped at sushi burritos, but here we go with the ni howdy. All right, Raz. You haven't been on the show before, so before we get into talking about Invictus Gaming and how terrifying they are as a team, what's up? How's life? Talk to us a little bit about everything you're doing in the LPL.
Hit me with some Mandarin.
Hit us with some Mandarin.
Oh, snap. Oh, no.
我有中杯 cappuccino, 谢谢。
我一点明白中文。我去the cafe. So that one actually is like the easiest one. Literally just like translates perfectly. Yeah, I went to the cafe, want coffee, all that nonsense. I'm really bad at it. When you put me on the spot, you're going to get butchered. Like, I know for certain there's a lot of ethnic Chinese people listening on the show, and they're like, oh God, stop this segment.
But Raz, you're improving. They can't hold it against you as long as you continue to try. They will make fun of you, but they can't hold it against you. That's the process, dude.
That's true.
You
That's
survived.
True. We take those.
How are the finals?
That's true. Oh my God, it was beautiful.
No, I actually have a thing to. What do you mean that your guys' finals arena was to be determined?
Uh-oh.
What is that about? No lie. You guys
We don't have to get to that point, all right? We got the job done. Foshan was the destination, and it sold out immediately.
But did they try to hold the location in secret because they were afraid that scalpers? Was this to help people actually get tickets to the event?
No, not from my knowledge. But to be fair, there's a lot that was outside of my knowledge on that one. But it made it definitely hard going onto like the semifinals broadcast and being like, the finals in a big stadium somewhere.
No lie.
I missed this context.
On the semifinal graphic, when they were doing JDG, it said finals to be determined. I was like, what do you mean it's to be determined? It's in 2 weeks.
That's great. I want that for the LEC. I just want to get a big spinner behind the wall after the semifinals. Like, where are we going this time?
One thing I've got to say, like, I remember the LEC, like, going into the season, they're like, here's our playoff format. Get it in there. And I'm like, I'm just here in, like, week 7, week 8. I'm like, I think I know the playoff format.
Yeah, and then we're literally in playoffs, and people are like, why are Origins still here?
Oh, sad life.
It's always unexpected, but it kind of reminds me of the playoffs itself, because I used to be good at predictions. Like, I remember the last time I went to MSI, and I was like Mr. Prediction Man, and then I went to, like, thank God, not a lot of those people will be getting a look at my prediction rate during the LPL playoffs, because I feel like I bet every single
bet
one
on the wrong horse every single time. JDG messed you up.
Look, no one could predict that. Literally,
Caps predicted it. He literally sent you a video of talking about how JDG were going to go to the finals.
He dreamed it. What the hell is that?
That's how Twilight was created, and it is a best-selling book, so you take it back.
Like, it's insanity. Like, I was look, the entire road, the moment I saw that footage and we were going to put it on air, is like, what kind of Martin Luther bull? Like, I, like, did not believe what I was about to put up there. And then the moment it came through and they took down WE, I was like, okay, you know what? They look good, but RNG is next. I'm skeptical. RNG has to win that one. And then it goes to game 5, JDG win that one. I was like, there's no way they beat FPX. Like, I've been an FPX doubter all split long, but even then, they're an 8-seeded team.
You ready for my low-key flame? You know what all 3 of those teams are missing?
Oh, here we go.
A top laner.
Oh, no! But to be fair,
I swear to God, if you say Gimgoon, the first word out of your mouth, I'll slap you.
No, I wasn't going to, but it was going to be the second point. That was going to be the second point. But, like, all of those series, legitimately, like, JDG's demons were their AD carry position. Like, regular season, like, the stat that was the funniest one that I picked out early and midpoint of this season was Imp died the most of all AD carries in, like, 2v2 situations, like, AD carried, like, literally just in lane, right? Can't technically be a solo kill because it's literally a dual lane.
That's why I love that stat for bot laners. They're, like, exempt from it because someone watches them make terrible decisions.
But, like, their communication in the lane was so bad, so consistent for so long, and then they get into the playoffs, solo kills Mystic in, like, game 1, first 5 minutes, like, what? And then, like, the second series against RNG, it was the same it was the same issue, except RNG was like, all right, we got to bring everybody. You know how we are. Like, Carson's going to come to the bottom lane a million times, control wards galore, and then they just kept weathering the storm. In fact, in, like, game 4, Imp comes out of, like, a triple kill because JDG commits to the fight. And I'm like, this is bloody good. So LPL playoffs is the most insane one I've ever seen, just because the 8-seeded team, or at least first and foremost, the bottom 4 teams in the playoffs was only really decided in the last day of the regular season, as per usual.
Classic.
When it comes down to it. Yeah, I know, right? And so, like, WE versus JDG was the last set, and not only that, it was like, it didn't matter who won and who lost technically, because they were going to face each other in the playoffs, 5th seed versus 8th seed, and that was the difference. Literally, if they won the series, it's like, I'm 5th seed or I'm 8th seed. And the only real difference was they'll be on the same side of the bracket, but they get to choose what their side selection was. So Coach Ohm technically just insane. He brings in like the newest, like Dave uses support named Keen. He's like, all right, you're going in for our captain Lumao. We're just like trying this new comp. They like get smashed by Team WE, and then they go into the playoff and then make the run. So I was like, everyone was behind JDG until the finals happened. And then the finals happened.
Yeah, but let's talk about the finals then, because I think there's going to be a lot of people who aren't as familiar with JDG outside of the final. And it's kind of cool to hear how miraculous their run was, but I think
this is Draco.
It's similar to the
Fnatic.
Yeah,
I
was like, guys, we stopped making China Talk like 3 years ago. You don't have to bring that podcast back.
You're bringing it back, man. This is what it is now.
So
we can't have the budget for China Talk. I'm bringing the budget to you.
There you go.
It would be cheap.
It's true. All right, we'll talk China Talk later.
He wants to know about Invictus Gaming.
Yeah, I do want to know about Invictus Gaming, but talk to me about what changed in the finals for JDG that wasn't like they had this wonderful miracle run, and it's a cool thing to see. But what changed for them against Invictus Gaming? Why was this series?
Well, their drafts were horrific.
So like, I was actually, the funnest thing was going back to Twitter and just seeing Frosk's tweet, because it was exactly my feeling. I always had to kind of drive in that it's always possible for a reverse sweep, but for whatever reason, for how much praise we gave to Coach Holman for JDG coming into that set, we all knew at that set that IG are beautiful on blue side. Even though we knew on red side, like red side rookie, all that stuff, counter pick their solo lanes, that's fine. But Jace and Rise are always going to be their first picks. Like no matter what, they swap in between both top and mid, and they're dominant laning like champions. So if you're going to be on red side, you're going to be choosing red side, you need to ban either the Rise or like you need to be able to have a strategy against it. And their strategy was scale. It was literally like lose gracefully in top side, look to team fight on Windows with Nocturne and Ornn ultimate. And they just got slaughtered in lane. So it was it was really uneventful, because it was only game 3. Well, technically game 2 that we started to see them shift towards more early laning phase and mid lane focus. But IG started to even still took them down afterwards too. So the best thing about IG in that series was, even though JDG slowly started to adapt and it was slow, IG showcased that they could still team fight better, that they were rotating Botlane and their top lane, the Shy, actually fairly frequently. So whenever the Shy had shove, he would be able to rotate towards mid lane where the skirmishes were happening. They were a team that was a better team fighter, a better roaming team against a team that was literally known for team fighting and rotating. So IG are basically the perfect team going into that series.
So I'm curious, right now, talking to pretty much everyone, IG are hands down the favorite for MSI. Generally, I think one or two people, some Korean diehards might say that it's SKT. Some European diehards might be like, this is the year G2 can do it. But for the most part, IG feels like everyone's safe bet. And I've heard all the positives. I understand. The Shy is the Shy. He's unstoppable. There's not a word for it, because it's just who he is, right? He's just so good. Rookie is rookie. He's smacked literally everyone in the world. He's coming to smack Faker. But what?
Oh, you're coming to hear the negatives.
Yeah, but I want to hear the negatives. That's what I want to hear. I want to know what, because for a long time in the regular season, it was Fun Plus X is
what you gonna
on
say,
top.
Raz?
What is there? Are there weaknesses? Has this team just been dominating the LPL? Give people the TLDR for Invictus as a whole over the course of LPL, because right now I think people just assume that this team is completely and totally untouchable.
Okay, so you came to the right person, I think. And Frost will remember a lot of these criticisms with IG. They're a team that, they play to their opponents. Legitimately, they play to their opponents. During the regular season, that is, there was never a fight that they saw that they didn't want to take. They took every fight. Didn't matter if they were in a losing position for the fight. In fact, you know what? Got themselves on Reddit for a few of those. It didn't matter if... the enemy team's composition was far better in the early portions of the game. If they went up against Sino Dragons, they're going to be playing the Sino Dragon skirmishes a lot of the time. So that was something that when you saw IG play in the regular season, you're like, are they still the world champions? What am I watching currently? It felt like there wasn't respect and discipline on the team. Because of course, not only is the LPL regular season so long, so there is that question of are they going to be doing what RNG did last few splits? So those are the questions that I had initially. I think one point that still reared its head even when they were in a best of 5 setting when they went up against TOP was that they showcased to me that when they get challenged on topside 2v2, when they finally say, hey, like, because it's not just the fact that the Shy is a really like a strong mechanical player, but also the fact that the jungle proximity for Ning, he plays the topside so consistently. And so it's not that you're going up against the Shy, you're going up against the Shy and Ning. And Ning is prone to a lot of mistakes. Like as a player, even though he is our best jungler, alongside my mind, Tien and Karsa, he's someone that if he sees that he has pushing lanes, or if he sees that he can take a fight, he will almost certainly take that fight, or he will almost certainly die for it. And so like that creates errors because, you know, like sometimes if he's not able to communicate with the Shy, and he can't, communication problems are going to be consistent. We've seen those from like constant videos of just like tuning into their mics. And that draws Ning into basically being put behind. And so when that happens, suddenly the Shy can't be supported in the lane. So like that's something that I really wish that in the playoffs, some of these top lane notable teams should have played to their style. Like TOP lost while they were playing away from top lane. JEG should have played to their top lane, but they decided against that. So I think that's where I would draw my weakness, is that they are a team that is fight first, measure second. And that's something that is certainly you don't want to do up against much smarter teams. So if they're going up against SKT, a team that is far slower, I would say like in game pace, that is not as bloody, will place more wards and still has that aggression around Clid, because Clid still wants to fight, but he's going to be recognizing when's the right time to do so. I think that's going to be not an Achilles heel for Invictus Gaming, but certainly where they will start to lose more games.
And I'm curious for both of you now, Frost, since you were in the LPL for last year, how many of these similar weaknesses did we see for IG coming into Worlds last year? Has this been the same story for a while?
I think the most important thing to take away from Invictus Gaming is at Worlds, you saw the best iteration that team has ever done. And, you know, that in itself needs to be complimented because, you know, yes, under pressure, you need to show up, and they certainly did. But to expect that as the standard of IG is not true. I think that they've made some improvements, and that it used to be that IG were good at skirmishing but poor at 5v5ing. I think they're much better at 5v5ing now. I think the rotations from the Shy are much cleaner. His TPs are much cleaner. And I almost think that I think the mentality, like I understand what Raz is saying about, I understand what you're saying about like SKT, like with more vision and finding those windows. Because I think it's, again, it's about exploiting the windows where you can exploit IG's decision making, because you know that they're always going to look for the skirmish or they're going to look for the fight. But I don't think that the game plan should ever be to try to scale against IG and just say neutralize lane phase, go 50-50 even and gold into team fight phase, because at that point I actually think you just lose, because Rookie and the Shy are the best individual players, and unless your composition is just vastly outdrafted for 5v5, you'll just lose to better players. I think you must skirmish them, and that doesn't mean, you know, SKT can do that, G2 can do that in different ways, but like you must fight fire for fire and try to exploit those windows early on. You cannot go even against this team.
So then I'm curious.
Actually, we have teams that literally can do that. Like G2 is built for that. Like SKT is built for that. I'm really glad Liquid to
but I'm just
a certain degree as well.
I know, right? We just had this comment.
We just had a conversation where you always have to mention Liquid.
No, but I think the scary thing is you can learn the wrong lesson, because since it's best of one, like let's say that's G2 strategy. They're like, we're gonna fight fire for fire, we're gonna get scrappy, and let's say that they just pick the wrong fight and everything snowballs, because that's how a game snowballs, and then suddenly IG run it back the other way and a team just gets smashed. G2, the fans, they all then learn the lesson, you can't do that, and so they try a different way and they try to scale, and I just think that's absolutely the worst strategy. So unfortunately, I think my personal opinion is the strategy that I would choose against Invictus Gaming, which is to match the Shy and Ning up there, to go toe-to-toe, can be so devastating, and it can look like you just get slammed. And if that happens to a team, they could get scared and be like, oh, put them on scaling, let's throw everything bottom lane. And then they go 5v5 even, they make a wrong call over a Baron, and they'll be like, oh yeah, but if we made the right call over the Baron. Whereas again, if I'm IG, I'm like, you have Rookie and the Shy. If that's a 5v5 and all those players are there, I'm gonna go with Rookie and the Shy.
One thing I gotta say that I'm a little afraid about is that one of the weaknesses that we had for IG last year too was the fact that they had a rookie support, and I mean rookie AD carry. Rookie AD carrying JackeyLove. And JackeyLove, when he was under the spotlight, and not so much internationally, because internationally he really became like a demon, but regular season and against like Uzi in particular, he really like crumbled. Like he made a lot of weird mistakes like in teamfight situations, but he's gone past that. So like literally I feel right now he has the experience, he's been underneath that fire, and so I will still say that sometimes they over pressure at 2v2 situations when you know that Ning is topside. They just challenge you because they can, and a lot of times they succeed off that. So that's IG. Like so confident in their own mechanics that they're willing to take the fights that are not necessary is my whole thing with IG.
So looking at the competition, are you more confident in IG for this MSI than you were for Worlds 2018?
Ooh,
taking into account the fact that they're up against SKT and G2, as the two primary forms in Liquid of competition.
And North
America. I think so. Because like last time around at Worlds, I had them as like fourth best. In terms of, if we're just going through all the teams that were there, I had RNG that was stronger than them. I had KT that was stronger than them, and they overcame a lot of those hurdles. And then right now I'm looking at the field, and sure, there are a lot less teams to deal with. But I think that a lot of the teams that are playing right now at MSI, in a sense, emulated them. Like, in a sense, I see G2 as a team that took a lesson from Worlds and saying that we need mechanics. Like, we need players that have to match international teams just in laning phase alone. And so while I think that's true, and it means that G2, personally, they stand a better chance, I think that they still match, like in terms of laning phase power, they're still better. So like if you try and match a team in identity, but that team still has stronger players, like Rookie's still the best mid laner. People will have that debate between him and Faker, but I still think Rookie has that. And top lane's the same case too. Well, I mean, that's where it comes down for me.
Dang.
I think it's like split-second decision-making and skirmishes. Because like I agree, I think that the Shy is better than Wonder, and that Ning and Jankos are both kind of inconsistent for me. Like I think Ning's had higher highs, but then I'm like, okay, if your G2 and your strategy is you can get a matchup, or a window that a matchup can be exploited, then the decision making has to be perfect in that window. And
how many teams? The other question that's always really tough for me when I look at this: how many teams in Europe this season are actually going to help G2 improve their skirmishing when they already have so many incredibly strong individual players and they get to style in the competition, right? And maybe I'm wrong here. This is just like a very LPL couch analyst perspective, but like LPL is a region known for fighting, right? So if you want to be the skirmishing team and you want to get better as the skirmishing team, LPL is like the place to be.
That's the thing, and that's why I think regional competition is so important just in general. And that for LPL, we had our 5th place and 8th place team was only really decided at the end, and even then I felt bad that BLG couldn't make it to the playoffs because like Kuro had a phenomenal split. I thought he was an excellent mid laner that should be on a world stage, but the last time he was on the world stage,
I am flaming you so hard internally.
Kuro was so good.
Oh man, like, you said BLG.
BLG were so good. But anyways, like that was my thing on BLG, that like I felt like there was some room for teams who could perform in a playoff setting, and all of these teams did their part. So that's where I think that for LPL, a lot of these teams who run that gauntlet, you have to have that team fight bone in you. IG had to learn the hard way, and that's literally faced every team fight team. Actually, in their championship run in 2018, they almost got bopped out of the semifinals. Frost knows this.
See,
they almost got bopped out of JD.
We said it all the time, Raz. We said IG would never be LPL champions until they could learn how to team fight, and they finally did it. It was finally carved into them.
There you go. Yeah. So, does this just feel like easy clap for you, Raz? Are you like total faith that IG are going to be the MSI champions?
Oh, hell no. Absolutely not. Absolutely. I think SKT we'll have some problems. I think G2, even though I said that the individual matchup for G2 versus like IG, I said that I would think IG would win, but I still have a lot of hope in like Mikyx, Perkz, Caps, like they still have incredibly strong members, and if I'm projecting a finals,
No. Here we go, Raz. Just imagine this. Just imagine the camera is panned towards Botlane. It's G2 versus IG, and you see 20 teleports on a minion, and everyone's flying down there, and you're not sure how this one's going to end up. This is when every LPL analyst and every LEC analyst is like, no! That is absolutely going to happen. Where you'll just have, like, the mid laners are TPing, and the top laners there, the junglers are flying out, and you're fighting over a goddamn cannon creep.
Yeah, but someone's going to get that 45 gold, that 90 gold.
But that's the thing, like, Invictus Gaming will do like that, and GT will, like, double down, they're like, triple down, we need the top laner. And you're like, that goes out of the way.
All I will say is that I want a best of 5 between IG and G2. I would like G2 to win.
I'll give you at least 3
I believe in Europe, but IG is terrifying. But there is one team, you talk about SKT, I want to get your opinion, Raz, right now, from what you've seen so far of SKT, where do you think that they stand? Because this is something that people are kind of divided on. After Korea showing at Worlds last year, a lot of people are like less willing to put them at the top of the ladder. There's a lot of diehard Korea SKT fans. Vedius hard flame them. Where do you put SKT right now? How do you see SKT heading into this tournament?
Did he hard flame them on this show?
Yeah. Before you came on.
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm ready, man. I think holy shit.
No, he was actually quite
very
nice.
polite. He was actually very cautious and very polite. He wanted to make it very clear that he wasn't actually hard flaming them. He's like,
he compared SKT to Origin in that they have multiple styles and ways that they can attack you on the map, that they're a much more controlled team, that they minimize risk and have high reward plays, but then they have a higher bar of execution than Origin. So while they are stylistically similar than Origin, they are obviously the better Origin.
And then we'll still get 3-0'd by G2, am I right? That's what we're all trying to say here.
Yeah, that was the cap.
There we go. Yeah. So my thing on SKT is that they've learned a primary lesson, or at least LCK in general, that having control on the map, you need to be able to take action. Like when you have the control on the map, when you have vision. I still think that SKT at times, and this was my issue with them in the playoffs, is that they still took, at regular season as well, that when they had all the information available, that they were still not willing to press the button immediately and turn it into a fight. But they are still far more aggressive, and I think Clit has done an amazing job at being able to lead those fights. So I think that they're a top 2 team, easily. I think that I would be super surprised if SKT, with like Teddy, who is an insane mechanic, like he's the best AD carry in the LCK and should be, like, he's already aiming for that on a world stage. Faker, who's also just incredible. Like, they have exceptional talent. The only place I ding them on is literally just their top lane. And that I cannot trust. Like, going into the finals, I was like, I cannot trust that Khan will, if he's in a deficit, like, lose gracefully. And I cannot trust that if he's engaging on a Vladimir, that he will, like, 80% of the time come out ahead. Because, like, I think that he is an exception. Like, he's a great top laner, but his lows are like Westbrook-esque. And so that's where I'm looking at with Khan as a problem.
That's interesting. Vedius brought up the same thing. Do you see the same issues? What Vedius talked about was kind of like this, a lot of the laning phase being difficult, but still giving him credit outside of the lane as like a strong point. But just the laning phase specifically being this huge potential Achilles heel.
Yeah, I can see that. So I still, while all that being a problem, I think that SKT is still too smart of a team. And yeah, mostly that. I think they just have a really good gauge of Faker playing through Clit, and late game is a really good call for them as well. I think they just have the members ready for them. So yeah, it's tough. I think that this is probably going to be the best MSI yet because of the 3 teams. Oh no.
The 4 teams.
Okay. I mean, to be fair, you can say the 3 teams that have already qualified for the main stage.
Ooh, boom. 3 teams that have already...
Because, you know, the Flash Wolves and Team Liquid still need to earn their spot via a best of 5.
Of course. I know we'll get to, or at least I'll be able to get to my point on Team Liquid at some point, but I know for certain that SKT, I still think that they're going to get to finals.
Why are you so down on Team Liquid? We have Azael after you, who's going to be our NA expert. So, like, hit me with the cold hard truth. Why is everyone doubting TL?
I think Team Liquid has, I wouldn't say an outdated style, but I think that they're kind of forced down one area where so far they have showcased, like, before they've had Jensen, that they're a team that's focused primarily on the bottom lane. And I think especially with Core JJ, that's far better and far more consistent. But the issue is those games take too much time. The reason for that is because they can't really have, it goes back to the same point about like carry in the top lane. Impact is going to be going up against a lot of pressure. And I'm talking about like Wonder, Deshai, Khan to a certain extent. And I'm not saying that Impact is a bad player by any means, but he needs, like, in terms of drafting, in terms of playstyle, like, that's going to be incredibly scrappy. Those are going to be early fights. And if you're a team that's really focused on being able to play around your AD carry, you actually get left behind. Like, that's just going to be the style. That was the style going into Worlds, and that's actually the style that came into a lot for the finals, that it was the AD carry needing to catch up to the rest of the team's playstyle rather than teams necessarily playing to the AD carry. I think Jensen is their key, but it took too late from when I was watching for them to start playing through Jensen. So that's where my concern is that they have too slim of win conditions. So I want to see Team Liquid evolve. I also believe that Impact can play carries, but if we're just starting to stock rank our top laners at MSI, it's unfortunate that of all the major regions that he would be slotted at the last place. He's still exceptional, but in terms of what the style is required, he falls flat.
I just want to put it out there that we're in a champions tournament and no flame. Like, someone has to come last, but if you're being ranked among the best of every region, like they're sending their, like, it's not bad to be fourth. It's not bad to be fourth.
I will say this though, like, I still haven't seen what 9.8 or what the new patches are going to give us.
Are you ready for
once they scrim? If they give us tank top laners like Horn far more often, that could change everything.
We've talked about this. We've literally, this is our number one point. This is Frostgurn's conspiracy theory, is that Jack went to the balance team to win MSI for North America, and the tanks are coming back.
Raz, it was like perfect timing. He's like, it's probably going to be TL. We got Shin, GP, and Ornn, and if tanks come up...
This is a fake theory for the record.
This is
not 100% a wild tinfoil hat conspiracy theory. Please, Jad is just trying to balance the game.
And he's doing a good job. It's a good game right now.
It's a great game, but... Also, maybe also this.
But yeah, so he kicks over the balance team and he starts patching them all in. Shin buff?
Ornn buff.
And you gotta separate them. You can't do it all at once because then it's too obvious.
Put Shen in 9-6, put Ornn earlier in the year. No one's gonna think anything. He's bad right now.
Exactly.
So that's our theory, guys. Tank jungles.
I know, Xmithy, and we'll make the ult. Oh my god, we'll put the Sejuani change where like the ult is clickable. It's a point and click. Never whiff it.
Oh, God bless.
If they didn't write just Xmithy on the patch notes, that'd be too real. Oh, God.
That would be amazing. They need to start flaming people in those patch notes. People read them. People do.
All right, Raz, as a recap, before we close out your segment, I just want to get really quick your top three for MSI, what you think the final top three placements are going to be.
Oh, all right. Well, Invictus Gaming, SKT, and G2 for me.
Safe bet.
I think that is the safest bet. I'm still putting G2 Invictus Gaming final. I feel it in my bones, but
this is how the G2 Invictus Gaming final happens. G2 get drawn against TL, and then SKT and IG knock each other out in the semis. That's how that happens.
That's so hard. Oh, but wait, I think I think G2 can actually be better than SKT in best.
Exactly. And SKT, the last time SKT were at MSI, they fiddlesticks their best of ones and took out RNG.
We're not allowed to say the F word, so she says fiddlesticks.
Yeah, I was just about to mention that. Your memory is far too strong for us. You got to get that out.
But the problem is that they changed the rule that
so you can pick
that
third
first
or fourth.
seed gets to pick.
So they're gonna pick TL 100. Oh my god! What if IG just snipe SKT out? They're just like, we think we're better. We're just gonna take, like, we could pick TL, which is no doubt probably the easier best of 5 for us, but we're just gonna take SKT straight. That would be the ultimate disrespect. We'll see. We'll see if it happens. All right, Raz. Well, we'll see you at MSI, my friend. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us.
Thank you for having me.
Enjoy China. We'll see you soon.
Perfect. I'm glad that this episode of China Talk worked out.
They're presumably going to make a cut somewhere.
I have to pee. Can I go pee?
All right, Raz. She's going to go pee. We're here. We're back with our final guest of the day. It's none other than Isaac Azael Cummings-Bentley. Hello, sir. Thank you for waking up early in Los Angeles time to be here.
Does this qualify as the EUphoria?
Because we've invited Azael on.
Yeah.
We'll let Azael decide.
Yep.
This
there
is
EUphoria.
Yep. We have to give the naming rights.
I also like that dive goes first. That's good.
Well, EUphoria doesn't sound very good.
Oh, wait. What would we call it?
The EUphoria.
The EUphoria. Yeah, that doesn't sound great.
Euphoria.
Okay, this is the bet now. We needed a bet for this episode. So whoever finishes higher, TL or G2, gets to name the EUphoria dive hybrid.
Okay, I like that.
That's all right. That's not bad. I'm just looking forward to the Rift Rivals bet where we get to bet another commercial, the yearly commercial bet. That's my new favorite tradition.
I mean, we may have lost Rift Rivals, but we won the commercial. That's the important part,
That was
something great came from that.
I was like, wow, that's the best piece of content we've ever made. And Martin was like, that's a messed up thing to say. And I was like, damn. And I was like, we promoted. I flamed myself so much on accident around that piece. Well, we're here to talk about Team Liquid, to be honest. Thus far,
we're gonna wait. Do you want to? We're gonna be real with you, Isaac. We've talked to Raz. We were supposed to have Papa Smithy on, but we couldn't get him. And we also talked to Vedius, our local Korean expert, in place of Papa Smithy. Things aren't going great for TL. So we brought you on as like the last hope to like get us hyped, to talk about the style, to give us like the lowdown on the team. We promise we won't leak these strategies to G2, but
yeah, before I ask you anything, let me clarify how people felt. Raz is like, this team is really good, but sadly he thinks that they're just fourth place in a lot of positions, right? Like they're world-class talent, but he doesn't feel like they can match a lot of these other teams. And for a lot of the discussions, it has been, these are the top three, and TL sits right outside of that. So I'm curious what your take is on TL and kind of initially your thoughts on them in the stack ranking.
I mean, I think almost everyone is probably going to tell you that they're fourth. I think it's like somewhat hard to make an argument, like at least on paper, that they're above that. But what I would also say is like, I don't think it's this distant fourth that everyone seems to be making it out to be. Like, look back at MSI last year, right? At MSI last year, they went to a tiebreaker after they had Ole and Pobelter, first of all. Ole subbed himself out, so they were playing with Joey, who they literally had 0 games of practice with. They lost, 1 or 2 games with Joey? And they still got to a tiebreaker. They've taken down some of the other top teams. It's not like they only beat, an emerging region team. They took down Korea. They beat EU. Like, this is not unrealistic for those sorts of things to happen. Team Liquid, I think it's just objectively upgraded both mid lane and support. Core JJ won the MVP. I think he's the best player in North America, like in this split. I think that was totally legit. He's been incredible for the team. Jensen, he just performed very, very well at Worlds. Yes, he hadn't had the regional success, but Jensen has always been like a really good international mid laner. Whereas, Pobelter was kind of the inverse. He was always really good in North America, but couldn't stand up against, the Caps of the world, the Rookie of the world, whatever. Do I rate Jensen above those guys? No, but do I think that Jensen can compete with those guys? Yeah, I don't think that it's a situation where Jensen plays against Caps and just gets absolutely trounced every game, right? Like, these are guys that are on an elite level that I think can compete, and I think it's like much as League of Legends is these days. I think it's more down to a team level and how the teams play. I think the big concern for me as far as how Team Liquid will do is, what style are they going to play, in top? Because I think, despite the fact that Impact did play carries in playoffs, I don't think that he's like the best at lane bullies, right? That is the big thing. Like, I will say it's not just that he can't play carries, it's specifically lane bullies I don't like him on as much. Like, if you have to dominate your opponent in lane for this to be an effective pick, like, that's why I don't love Jace for him, right? Because I just don't think that's his style of play. But something like Gangplank, he's been extremely good on. I think a lot of the picks that you're playing, like pseudo frontline, that are carries but like actually have time to scale, I think he's incredibly good on. So I think Team Liquid is like, this is the best year that they have had. They've shown that they can be close at MSI before, and their team has upgraded significantly. Like, I don't think it's unrealistic to assume that they could compete at MSI this year.
Do you think then, because basically we're like, how far behind are they? And you're like, well, let's measure the inches, which I think is a fair way to view it. But do you think that is success? Like, let's say TL make it into the knockout stage, and then they just fall down in semifinals. Is that success for TL? Is it success if they just are competitive? Or do they actually need to take games? Like, where do you measure where you like TL come home, let's say they don't win it all, that you feel good, or that you think North American fans will feel good?
No one's going to feel good, and they shouldn't feel good. If you're saying don't win any games, like that's a failure, of course, right?
Well, you got to win some to get to the knockout stage.
Yeah, but I mean, if you only get to the knockout stage by say whoever gets through, right? Like if you're only beating, one of the emerging region teams to actually get through, then I don't think that's a success. If you go 0-6 against Europe, Korea, and China combined, that I don't think is success. And like whether it happens, the players would not be happy with that. The fans should not be happy with that. The teams should certainly not be happy with that. I do think that they can be competitive. I do think that they'll take games. And like, if you're going to sit there and tell me that they're going to go 0-6 against those teams, like I would contest that. Will I say that I think they're going to have a preferential record? Probably not. But I mean, we just came off Worlds last year. How many people were actually betting on like Cloud9 to make semis, on, teams like G2 and Fnatic to do quite as well as they did? I think we've seen that the gap is not always as big as it appears. And that like a lot of these players are within the same essentially like skill level, right? Like, yes, there are players that are higher and lower, and some of the teams are better and like on average will win more. But certainly like Team Liquid, I think is within the range that they should be able to compete and take games off these teams. Like that I think is for sure.
The one of the reasons why I actually like this assessment, because I feel like a lot of people will hear that and they'll be like, just because Cloud9 has success doesn't mean that TL will have success. It's like sunk cost fallacy? Is that the idea, where it's like just because something's happened before, it's not going to happen again? No, it's a different fallacy.
Different fallacy.
Yeah, it's like
it's a very not sunk cost.
It's like a gambler's fallacy or something like that. But because TL have retained so much of the same roster, like, because the thing is Invictus Gaming have retained the exact same roster. TL have only swapped out like one position. I'm actually more willing to like lean back on the idea that you can make those types of like assessments or predictions about the analysis of trying to weight the team, that they will have more weight behind them versus, G2, who I don't think you can talk about G2's success at Worlds and then be like, but this G2, the exact same one, because I think it's a completely different team. Yeah.
I'm curious when you look at like once again, the theoretical top teams, the top four that would be making it to the bracket stage. I'm curious who you would like, if you could pick for TL to play anyone, who would you be looking at stylistically? Who would you be looking at for TL to face up toe-to-toe with? Is it just G2 because a lot of people believe them to be the third place team? Or is there a team where you think TL would face better?
I don't know. I think that right now, like I would be most scared of IG for them, simply because I just think the Shy is such a monster, and I think that he has the ability to like abuse probably anyone in lane, to be honest. But I think if that's where you're kind of nervous about TL, and that is kind of where I am more nervous for them, because like the thing is that if TL was going to go to tanks and like go to a more defensive playstyle for impact in those sort of matchups, then I would maybe have more confidence. But it doesn't feel like that is a strategy that they want to do. That's not what they showed in playoffs. They have obviously like just, nope, we're going to keep playing carries. This is how we believe the game is best to be played right now. And that is terrifying against the Shy, because I would be terrified of the Shy if I have Wonder too. I'd be terrified of the Shy.
We have Wonder and we're like... I'm like crossing.
The Shy is a monster.
He's a monster. I'm literally like crossing my fingers. I'm like, don't worry, EU fans. I'm like crossing my fingers behind my back, like, please, Wonder, please, Wonder, please. I'm like, it's gonna be fine. Please, Wonder, please, please, please. Like, everyone's scared, man. That man is the boogeyman of top lane League of Legends.
Yeah, he's so incredibly good, but. I mean, TL, like to your point, for us, they lost in a tiebreaker. So they're one game away at MSI, they're one game away at Worlds, and this team has upgraded in two positions significantly, right? They have two world champions, an MSI finalist, and a world semi-finalist as four of their five players. Like, they have a tremendous amount of international experience. Doublelift is the guy who has the worst pedigree international. He has never gotten out of groups, right? Like, and that's kind of been the well, I don't even know if I want to call it a joke, kind of a joke, but it's like, these guys are all like, yeah, we don't succeed in Italy, we don't succeed locally. So Jensen Core JJ are like, Doublelift, you carry us to a title in NA, we'll carry you we'll carry you out of groups. So, they have a lot of experience. I don't think that this is a team that should like choke. And as much as people talk about like, oh, TSM might have been the better team or whatever, I don't really believe that. And I also think that like we're at TSM going, I would have a lot of worries about like, how is Acadian going to perform his first time internationally? How are some of these guys who haven't actually been there going to do? Where TL, I don't really have that. Like, I don't think that they're going to have the same kind of like roster style issues that they had had last year, and their bot lane looked so good in finals. Like Doublelift was on average up 25 CSD at 15 against Sven. Like Sven is a really good bot laner, right? Like CoreJJ and Doublelift are definitively the best bot lane in North America. One of the best bot lanes we've ever had, I think. So, I'm excited to see how they actually stack up against some of the other competition. Because like I don't think that they are far behind like a lot of the other bot lanes here at all. And I would actually maybe favor them against some too.
Do you think it's good for TL this year coming in that they start in the plans? We've heard in the past like how it can kind of help teams get acclimated to what is a new tournament meta to get comfortable. Is that something that will benefit TL that additional time? Even if it is, obviously there's always that risk and that fear that in the double elimination bracket that they might not make it to main stage. But assuming that they probably should, right? They're definitively the strongest team in that point. Do you think it's good for them to get that additional time on stage? Are they the kind of team that needs that additional prep in like a new, what could be a completely different meta?
I mean, I would argue it's beneficial to any team. Like when I think of all my tournament days and everything, like, even if we were a favorite for a tournament, I wanted to play easy games at the start, right? And maybe that's doing a disservice to some of these teams, but I think it is easy if you compare like an IG to the team from Japan or from whatever, right? Like these are teams that are on different levels, and I think that's just being honest. And those games, I think, help build you confidence. They give you time to actually like warm up into the environment and feel comfortable playing in a new environment. Because every time you go to a new event, every time you go to a new venue, there is, I think, like a small adjustment period of when you're feeling like fully comfortable. And I do think that is going to give some of these guys a little bit of time to adjust, especially if they have like a poor read on the meta going in. I think that can be really devastating for teams if you show up to group stage and everyone knows something that you don't, right? Like at the end of the day, if they get knocked out of play-ins, then they didn't deserve to win the tournament. They didn't deserve to get to the main stage, right? So like for me, that's never really been a big concern, because it's like, all right, well, if you lost a best of 5 to one of these teams that they were better than you, and that's fine, that's fair, right? So I wouldn't really be worried about that, but I do think that having the ramp up, having the additional games, having time to actually get a read on the meta, see what other teams are playing, I think is an advantage. And there's even, I think, some opportunity for them to experiment with things if they're not fully certain that like it's good from scrims and they want to try it on stage.
What's your read on or do you have a read on kind of like the mentality of the team going in? Because I feel like so many times, especially Western teams and specifically North American teams, kind of get into their own heads. Ole pulling himself from the stage, I think, is probably one of the largest examples of just kind of like a defeatist attitude, that they just kind of collapse under the pressure or the strain, or where they might make plays domestically, they're unable to translate it. Because I don't think TL showed what they showed domestically on an international stage. I'm not saying that if they did, it would have changed the result at all, but I think it probably would have tasted better for a lot of North American fans to at least be like, yeah, they beat us, but at least our team was doing what our team does, versus our team is absolutely the bed and collapsing right now, and it just feels bad.
No,
so
American fans love that. They love that.
Feels great, man. Failure.
Yeah, we love when our teams do that. That's the best.
But I'm like, is that going to change? Because that would be my one concern. I'm like, okay, yeah, this team has more experience now. They've upgraded pieces of the roster. Like they were so close. Let's just have another go at it. And like this time, or is it going to be the same mental boom? Did they not fix like the core problems of like whoever is in that roster that just pulls down when they need to step up?
I would say they did fix those problems. I mean, you talk about Ole. Ole's not on the roster anymore. Pobelter, I think, was the other big weakness that a lot of people pointed to during MSI. They're both not on the roster anymore, and they've been replaced by people who have done it internationally. They got replaced by a world champion and a world semifinalist, right? Like these are guys who have all proven themselves internationally. As I said, Doublelift is the last guy without any sort of kind of pedigree internationally. But I actually think last year he played really well, both at MSI and Worlds individually. So that is one of the reasons I have more confidence in him coming into this year, because I think despite the fact they didn't get out of groups, like he had his best international performance. It actually felt like Doublelift was playing really well last year for the first time internationally, and he's failed enough times that I think he's kind of like started to fix some of the issues and fix some of the reasoning behind that. I think TL as a whole is confident, right? Like, do I think that they are going into this believing that they're going to win the event? No, probably not. But I think that they would be going into it believing that it is possible to win the event, believing that they can play their style and play the way that they want to play, because these guys have had such a tremendous amount of experience working towards it now. And I think that they have also like had some trials and tribulations kind of in North America, right? They had like their worst couple games down the stretch and then were able to actually bounce back from O2 to TSM. So I think that they have been tested a fair bit, and that they should be able to at least play like to their strengths and play the style that they want to play. Whether or not that results in them, winning or losing horribly remains to be seen. But I do think that we should expect them to have a strong performance.
See, that's where you guys messed up, though. You have all that. See, we have our backup excuse, which is if Promiscu plays, we're like, get him next time. No offense, Promiscu's a great player, but we have our excuses ready. You think we're coming to Rift Rivals without excuses? That's where you made a mistake. We have all of our excuses ready.
So Rift Rivals is a ways away.
That's what I got. I got talking to an NA, analyst. I got to bring it up. I'm like, look. IG are scary. I'll give you that. You know how I fight fear? I put my head into the ground, or in this case, 4 weeks forward in time, past MSI, or a month and a half, however long it is, into Rift Rivals.
So, I'm feeling good about Rift Rivals, I gotta say. I watched your finals. I watched Orange.
It's gonna feel real bad when Origin beats you guys.
It felt really bad when was it Echo Fox?
Wait, no, calm down.
All right, sorry. All right,
I'm not even a part of this.
All right.
No,
I was gonna bring it back.
The real question. So I won't reveal who everyone has predicted before you of who's going to win the tournament before your prediction, but who will win MSI?
I just think I have to say IG. I was an IG fanboy going into last year's Worlds. I think that they're just so incredibly strong. Like, I think that they have the two best solo laners in the world right now, and I just think that the game is run through that so much that it's incredibly difficult to actually beat a team if both your solo lanes are losing. If your solo lanes are losing, your jungle is losing. If your jungle is losing, you've lost the map, and it's just like it's so damn hard to play against that.
Well, you'll be surprised to hear you're the first person to say that. Everyone else is hard on SKT. No, I'm kidding. Everyone said IG. It's like the right bet, right? It's the safe bet. They're coming off World Championship. They're only, I feel like most.
So wait, now here's my next question. You're TL. How does TL beat IG? What happens?
Ooh.
I think that the way you have to beat IG, like, so I know Raz always talked about it in LPL cast, like the way you beat IG is beat them at their own game. You slam them. You have to go like all early game, and I don't think that is like let's be real. Like I don't think that you put Impact versus the Shy and the carry versus carry, and like I don't think he slams him. I just don't think that happens. The way I do think that TL beats IG is the way I think TL beats everyone else. Like you have a strong bot lane performance. Smithy is tracking the other jungler and shutting down like what they're trying to do. Jensen and Impact are essentially trying to withstand, and you can win in a team fight, right? Like yes, IG is incredibly strong, but they're not infallible. Like they do make mistakes. Even in their finals, they made mistakes, right? Like and I think that if you are playing conservative style, which is extremely hard to do against them because they're so good at punishing any mistakes and they're so good at snowballing leads, but like the way that you would beat them is, I think, through team fighting, is through surviving these lanes, picking to play around Doublelift. I think it's the way that TL like had success against TSM as well. Like in their first two games, the way that they drafted, they're putting Doublelift on these champions with no move blocks, with like no real protection for him, and he's getting dove and he's getting taken out. And I think that like enabling Doublelift is the way that TL wins. It's the way that they've always won. They just have additional threats across the map now to kind of make it easier for him to kind of be in that position. But I wouldn't bet on them to beat IG, but I think the way you do it has to be through the same style that they've always kind of succeeded at, which is like weathering the storm, playing 5v5, trying to win a team fight, that kind of thing.
Dang, I think that's always just such a difficult ask, right? Because when we talked about G2, we're like, we'll fight fire with fire versus the Shy, and it's still hard. And just Invictus feels, from what we've seen so far, pretty not infallible, but just colossal opponent.
But I agree with this assessment. I'd love to see like a GP, like let's say you ban out Rise J, so you get like more of a scaling matchup if it's a carry for the Shy, or maybe a dream scenario they start Duke and you get a tank versus tank matchup and you get to play the GP and you just start throwing your ultimates down bottom and everyone's just having a party in the bot lane for Doublelift. Like, if TL won that game, what does the analyst does say on the other side? That would probably be the first thing that you'd say. You talk about the draft. They neutralized the Shy. They got all the resources bottom. I think it's always a really interesting question to ask. Like, okay, how did G2 beat IG? I think it's completely opposite. I think that they got winning 2v2 and they had a roaming mid laner and they just tried to 2v3 top side and, maybe IG got over aggressive and it just snowballed out of control. If you're on that analyst desk and G2 or win, you're like, boom, Wander, he was right place, right time. They didn't keep track of Caps' TP. Rookie didn't have it. Maybe he took cleanse or something in the matchup and they tried to exploit that. Like, those are the first things that come out of your mouth.
I like that you're ready with both of those analyst desk segments.
When that segment comes out.
Let's go. Please give it to me. Otherwise, just, IG, doing IG things. So we notably lack a Korean specialist today, Azael. So I do want to get your take on SKT.
Wait, you don't have to be a Korean specialist. You can bow out.
You can also you can totally bow out if you want to, but just like initial takes. Once again, like reminding people on the show and you as well that like this is kind of just initial opinions based on what you've seen so far from LCK. No one's like holding you accountable to like expert status opinions.
Because there's still a lot of time left for prep. I know that everyone's like.
But we're crowdsourcing initial impressions, and I'm just curious to see what your general opinions of SKT compare to Raz and Vedius and Frosk at this point.
I think SKT looks really strong. I actually thought that they were going to beat Griffin because I just think Griffin are choke artists. Like, I think that they've shown that a couple times now, and that they don't really have it. Like when it counts, it seems, unfortunate for them. But SKT, I think, are incredibly strong, right? Like they've kind of revamped their team, and when you talk about like performing when it matters, this feels like a team that very much should. Like Faker is always incredible internationally. I think the fact that they've actually like upgraded their bot lane this much, they now do have like a lot of different kind of points of power. So, I mean, for me, like, I think that those are the top two teams. It's going to be IG and SKT competing with each other. I think that IG is favored simply because, like, we have seen them do it and we have seen how dominant their solo laners look. But I think SKT has the ability to actually compete with them. Like, I think that, it's if TL, if you're looking at like, oh, how does TL actually beat an IG? Well, SKT probably just does that, but like in an easier manner, because I think that their matchups and I think that their team is like the way that they play, I think is somewhat similar to how TL wants to play. And I think that that's like a similar way that they're actually would be able to beat them is through team fighting, is through 5v5, is through those sorts of styles of play. And I think that there's not as much of like what you would believe to be a mismatch in the top lane, which is going to help them out a lot. But I mean, I'm really excited to see Faker back internationally. I think people were kind of like tired of SKT for a while because they were just winning everything. But now that they haven't, and now that they, like have been out of it for a bit, like I'm really excited to actually see them back after them not being at Worlds, Korea not doing well. Like Faker, last time he was playing internationally was an absolute monster, right? Like everyone remembers them getting slammed by Samsung, but like Faker throughout that tournament was like 1v9. He was actually insane, and I want to see Faker unleashed. That's what I'm kind of really excited for, to see if like with everyone talking about Rookie, with everyone talking about how like Caps and how amazing some of these mid laners are at the event. I want to see Faker just come in and slam everyone. Like I think that would be so exciting to see him just like absolutely back on form. Just blasting everyone, being like, "Oh, you were good last year, Rookie. Oh, that's nice." Like, well, I'm Faker.
That's because I wasn't competing.
Oh. Yeah. I mean, it's brutal. I think this is in terms of like pedigree, in terms of teams that are showing up. I feel like this is the best MSI we've ever had.
We say that every year, but I do agree with you.
Yeah. I mean, every role feels stacked pretty much.
I think so. I mean, especially if you're looking at it from like the European and North American perspective, right? Like G2, I think on paper you have to say is the best European team of all time, right? I don't think you can like crown them that until they've like done something monumental internationally, right? Because like after the Fnatic,
I think we've given away that crown.
You've given it away. You just given it to them.
Yeah, we gave it.
Not most successful, but definitely strongest. We'll give them strongest.
Okay, so I think on paper, but I think it's fraudulent if you're saying, yeah, they're the best European team of all time. What if they burn out in groups at MSI and Worlds? Are they still the best European team of all time?
I mean, Jankos would be in the running for best choker of all time, that's for sure. Poor boy.
We're just never.
I just think you can't let it like give them that title until they've done something worthy of it.
You might be right. We might be a little bit too keen.
No, my eyes. They feel good on my eyes. When I look at them, it's nice.
Fnatic was in the World Finals.
That didn't feel good on my eyes.
Nice.
It didn't look nice on my eyes.
Okay,
We've had to rewatch that final a lot. You gotta understand.
Yeah.
I liked the view at the time.
at least on paper, maybe they're the greatest European team of all time. If you guys will actually, you know what? Go for it. Because then if they fail, that's so good.
On Frostkieran's eyes, the greatest European team of all time.
Oh no.
Either way, they're incredible on paper. And when you look at TL as well, like so from the Western point of view, like on paper as well, like who knows how they're going to do, but like this is the team that has the most international success like on paper when you're looking at pedigree, right? With two world champions, MSI finalists, world semifinalists, like this is, and the arguably greatest North American player of all time, right? Like these are teams that should succeed. These are teams that should do well. And both these teams were super teams that were built to succeed internationally. So I think it's incredibly exciting to be coming into MSI and being like, okay, we're here now. Let's see what you got, right? Because the competition is certainly going to be brutal against IG and SKT.
Are you good at like smack talk? Are you good at throwing shade?
He is, but don't make him bring it out.
No,
I know he's a former WoW pro.
Okay.
This man can talk
Because here's my thing. Because we've been throwing shade at TL basically all day. So I want to
subtle shade.
So I want to open up the court. You get your chance. You get your shot at G2 SKT IG. Do you feel comfortable just taking pot shots? What you got?
I don't know. I mean, like the thing for me is when you watch LPL, right? Like there's stuff that you're watching LPL and you're like, oh my God, these guys are so good. And then 5 seconds later, you're like, oh my God, when did I turn on my solo queue replays? Like, you know, like there is just some of the most monkey stuff in LPL, and they just like alternate between, wow, it's beautiful, and wow, what the hell are they doing? You know, like.
Okay, Korea.
Korea, oh man! I mean,
God,
Korea
go,
is
Isaac,
hard.
go.
It's hard to flame Faker, right? But
Isaac, he's been missing for the last.
Yeah. They put him on the back of a milk carton.
Vacation. I mean, you guys understand that G2 took a vacation at MSI before. Faker took a vacation at last year's Worlds. You know, I think G2. You know, if I have to flame them a little bit, you know, I'm excited to see Perkz versus Doublelift. That's what I'm most looking forward to. You know, Perkz I think maybe wasn't challenged as much in the bot lane as he could be at this event. So I'm excited to see how that is going to shake out. But I don't have too much trash talk for these teams. They're all really, really good. But I do think that. You know, it was unfortunate for G2 that they were playing against some random flex team in the finals. You know, it was.
You're like, I won't flame the people attending, but I will definitely flame all of the European 80 carries in Origin. See ya, Rift Rivals, nerds. Beautiful.
Thank you, Isaac.
Final prediction. We've gotten this from everyone. Who do you think the top? I said said top three before, but like, what is your prediction for finishes?
He said it's IG SKT.
No, then who's number 3?
G.
If you had to put someone in third place.
I mean, if I have to like put money on it, I mean, I think that you probably want to bet on G2. I think if G2 it doesn't have how likely is it that they have to replace their support?
So from what we see,
like is Mikyx like out for sure?
So they made an Instagram post, and then there was a subsequent Reddit thread where they made it clear that the plan was to have Mickey start games, but that the practice is still diminished, and that they're just making people very aware that like if something does go, like we're basically it makes it feel like we're on the cusp of Mickey not being able to play. Is basically what it is. It's like Mickey is still good to play. Mickey still wants to play, but like. If anything goes south, if he has a game where his wrist hurts more than it normally does, they're like, we are committed to his health before this specific set of results. Like we want him better before we want to win MSI, so we will pull him if we need to, was kind of what they were saying.
Okay. So I think that matters actually a lot for how I would see TL versus G2, because I think that their biggest strength is their bottom lane for TL, right? So if you have a less practiced bottom lane, then I think that's, you know, definitely a way that TL can win. So let's do it, baby. Let's go TL third. I mean, I think if G2 has all their starters, I think that you have to probably favor them. They looked extremely good, and I just think that, I mean, maybe I would probably still give TL like bot lane advantage. I think jungle is like harder to say. I think you have to favor Caps. I think you have to favor Wonder, and like that then becomes kind of some of the same arguments that you have about IG. Whereas it's like if you're favoring both the solo lanes for G2, then even if I think, oh, maybe Smithy's a bit better than Jankos, well, it doesn't really matter if your solo lanes lose because then you're kind of screwed as a jungler. So then it becomes so much about bottom lane. But yeah, I mean, I think those two teams should be really competitive. I think on paper it's probably G2, but if you lose your support, then I could definitely see them maybe crumbling in bot lane to some of these other bot lanes.
All I'm saying is we just have to hope that TL or G2 get second, and that IG in first place pick SKT.
Or IG and SKT fumble best of one.
Yes.
One of the Western teams gets first, and then they pick the other one.
Because if we get an EU NA semifinal, and if we could just avoid...
If Worlds has taught us anything, it's that we rig the brackets.
Yeah,
This is the European strategy. We all saw the H2K semifinals. I mean, I think, isn't it just more hype though if you have to play against SKT or IG and then they beat them
no
anyway?
one remembers that, because everyone talks about CLG being in that final and that was like the rise of North America, but everyone conveniently leaves out that it was SKT versus RNG in that semifinal.
Yeah, but everyone talks about SKT versus Misfits, right? Like
that's true.
Even if you lose, if you have a good showing, people remember that. I would say that SKT versus Misfits is like one of the most talked about series. Riv, I know, did an interview recently, and he said that was like his favorite series of all time to cast. Right? I think that you can have an incredible series like that, and I'd almost rather, like, if one of these teams were to make the finals, if G2 or TL were to make it to the finals, I don't want the asterisk beside it, right? Like I'd like to see you beat SKT or beat IG, and I think that makes it so much more exciting if you do. That's why for me, C9 making semis was so exciting, because it was a North American team beating a Korean team in a best of 5, and I think that was really, really cool, right? And like these are teams that are built for international success. Winning MSI would be super hype. Getting to MSI finals would be super hype, but like, these are our hopes, right? Like these are the teams that you're kind of putting all your eggs in that basket. And if you're looking down the line towards Worlds and everything, you have to be able to compete with these teams if you want to have the same kind of Worlds that you did last year, especially as a European fan, right? Like you should have those high expectations. If your only way of succeeding at MSI is dodging both SKT and IG and like teams of that caliber, then like you can't expect to be able to make back to finals at Worlds, right? So I think you should be looking to punch him in the mouth, looking to show him what you got.
I feel like this is a great speech, not just for both of our regions, and I like that your moral integrity and your competitive integrity there. But it's also a great speech for the Bombers. Shout out to Australia. They got screwed earlier today. It's been a good experience.
Yeah, you should check out the draw show.
Oh God.
By the way, North America's gonna face either 1907 Fenerbahce Esport,
Fongbu Buffalo,
Latin America Isurus Gaming, or the OPL Bombers.
So you guys got.
I feel like OPL always gets bopped in the brackets anyway, though. Let's be honest here.
They got slammed.
When has OPL not gotten bopped in the brackets?
Look, the OPL and disappointment do go hand in hand, but definitely they had an okay shot this year, I've been told by OPL analysts. So maybe
I've been told that every year by OPL analysts.
They never get to start 5 players. They're always down a competitive ruling.
All right.
I mean, whose fault is that?
Okay. All right. Isaac, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us.
Thanks for having me on.
I'm ready.
Shout out to your dog.
Shout out to your dog who was running circles
Stitch.
Behind you on the bed.
Stitch. Where is
His name is Stitch?
Come here, buddy. He can say goodbye.
Oh,
come here, bud.
my God.
Oh, come here, bud. Oh, yeah.
He's become the best guest of all time. Look at that. It was that simple.
Okay.
Goodbye. EUphoria, this is your gift. Thank you, Isaac, for this wonderful gift to us. When does MSI start? Do you know off the top of your head? Isaac, do you know?
April 29th?
No, that's when we fly.
May 1st.
May 1st. May 1st. MSI starts. Thank God someone's read.
May 1st to May 19th. Yeah.
Yeah, May 1st is first day of play-ins. But I mean, time zone wise, maybe it's a different day for different people. So that's why I check schedules, but I know it is May 1st that starts.
May 1st. We'll see you guys there. Isaac, thank you so much once again for taking the time, and we'll talk to you later.
Thank you for having me on.
Yeah.
Bye.